The stars looked different out here. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHS Liberty and watched the distant suns through the main screen. 6 months they had been away from Earth. 6 long months of checking empty space and making sure no pirates were hiding in the dark places between worlds. "Sir, we have contacts on the scanner," said Lieutenant Ben Hayes from his station. His voice was calm but alert. Ben had been with Jake for 3 years now. He knew when to worry and when to stay cool. Jake walked over to look at the scanner. Display. 3 ships showed up as bright dots on the screen. They were big ships, bigger than the Liberty. Their design was strange. Smooth curves instead of the hard angles that human ships used. No visible weapons. But that did not mean they were harmless. "Distance?" Jake asked. 2 million kilometers and closing slowly, Ben said. "They are not trying to hide. Their engines are putting out a lot of energy." Jake nodded. First contact with a new alien race was always tricky. The human government had rules about this. Be ready for anything, but try to make friends first. Most alien races they had met so far were peaceful, but there had been a few that were not. "Red alert," Jake said. "Bring the shields up. Power the weapons, but do not lock onto their ships. Send out a standard greeting message on all frequencies." The bridge crew moved quickly. Dr. Lisa Carter, the ship's doctor, came up from the medical bay. She always wanted to be on the bridge when they met new aliens. Steve Collins, the chief engineer, checked in from the engine room. His voice came through the speaker. "Captain, all systems are green. The reactor is running smooth. We can fight or run if we need to." "Good work, Steve," Jake said. The alien ships kept coming closer. They moved in a perfect triangle formation. Very organized. Very careful. Jake had seen this before with races that liked to talk instead of fight. But he kept his guard up anyway. "Sir, we are getting a reply to our message," said Mary Johnson from the communication station. She was young but very good at her job. "The signal is clean. They are using a universal translator. They want to talk." "Put it on the main speaker," Jake said. A voice filled the bridge. It sounded strange, like it was coming through water, but the words were clear. "Human vessel, this is Commander Vexhai of the Zeltharian fleet. We come in peace. We wish to learn about your people." Jake smiled a little. The words sounded honest, but he had learned not to trust too quickly. "Commander Vexhai, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Human Ship Liberty. We also come in peace. What do you want to know about us?" "We would like to perform a standard scan of your vessel," the alien voice said. "This is normal for first contact. We scan to learn about your technology and biology. It helps us understand how to communicate better." Jake looked at Ben. The tactical officer nodded. Their shields would stop most scans. Only basic information would get through. Things like the size of the ship and how many people were on board. Nothing that could hurt them. "That is acceptable," Jake said. "You may scan our ship. We ask that. You do the same for us." "Of course," Commander Vexhai said. "Beginning scan now." Jake watched the scanner display as the alien ships sent out energy beams toward the Liberty. The beams were gentle, not like weapon fire. They passed over the ship like invisible fingers, touching every part of the hull. On the other side of space, Commander Vexhai stood on his own bridge. The Zeltharians looked like tall, thin humans with gray skin and big black eyes. They had been exploring space for 1,000 years. They had met 43 different alien races. All of them had been peaceful after the first meeting. Humans looked like they would be the same. Their ships were well built, but not too aggressive. Their first message had been polite. They had agreed to the scan without fear. These were good signs. Science Officer Kethmore worked at his station, reading the scan results as they came in. The human ship was interesting. Very strong construction. Lots of backup systems. The kind of ship that was built to last. "Commander," Kethmore said, "the scan is complete. I am reading the data now." "What do you see?" Vexhai asked. "The ship has 800 humans on board. The technology level is about what we expected. Fusion power, energy shields, projectile weapons. Nothing unusual so far." Vexhai nodded. This was normal for a space-traveling race. "What about the biology scans?" Kethmore paused. He looked at his screen again, then checked his equipment. "Sir, I think there might be an error in the biological readings." "What kind of error?" The scans show that these humans come from a very dangerous world. High gravity, toxic atmosphere in some areas, extreme weather patterns. But that cannot be right. No intelligent life could evolve in such conditions. Vexhai walked over to look at the readings himself. What he saw made him feel cold inside. The human bodies showed signs of adaptation to incredible stress. Dense bones, powerful. Muscles, redondant organs. Their blood carried chemicals that would kill most known life forms. "Run the scan again," Vexhai said quietly. "Yes, sir." Back on the Liberty, Jake was having a normal conversation with his crew. Dr. Lisa Carter was telling him about the medical supplies they needed when they got back to Earth. "We ran low on antibiotics during the flu outbreak last month," she said. "Nothing serious, but I want to be ready next time. You know how these bugs can spread on a ship." "Make a list," Jake said. "We will pick up what you need at the next supply station." Ben Hayes called out from his station. "Sir, the aliens are scanning us again." "Maybe their equipment hiccuped," Jake said. He was not worried. The Zeltharians seemed friendly enough. On day, the alien ship Kethmore looked at the new scan results. They were the same as before. The humans really were as tough as the readings showed. But how was that possible? "Commander," Kethmore said, his voice shaking a little, "the second scan confirms the first. These beings evolved on what we would call a death world. Their planet should have killed them long before they became intelligent." Vexhai stared at the human ship on his screen. It looked so normal, so peaceful. But the scans told a different story. These humans were not like any race they had ever met. They were survivors from hell itself, walking around like it was nothing special. For the first time in 1,000 years of peaceful exploration, Commander Vexhai felt afraid. Commander Vexhai called for an emergency meeting in the main science lab. All the senior officers gathered around the big display screen where Kethmore was showing the scan results. The numbers and charts filled the room with an eerie blue light. "Explain this to me again," Vexhai said. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking slightly. In all his years of space travel, he had never seen readings like these. Kethmore pointed to the first set of data. "These are the structural scans of their ship. Look at this armor plating. It is 3 times thicker than anything we use. Their hull can survive impacts that would destroy our ships completely." Dr. Yathara, the ship's xenobiologist, leaned forward to get a better look. "Maybe they come from a system with lots of asteroids. That would explain the heavy armor." "That is what I thought too," Kethmore said. "But look at these weapon systems. They have missiles, energy cannons, and something called kinetic bombardment systems. These are not just for fighting other ships. These are weapons for destroying entire cities." The room went quiet. The Zeltharians had never needed such powerful weapons. In their 1,000 years of space travel, they had solved conflicts with words, not violence. "Show them the biological data," Vexhai said quietly. Kethmore switched to a new display. This one showed the inside of human bodies. The other officers gasped when they saw the readings. "Their bones are incredibly dense," Kethmore explained. "Much stronger than ours. Their muscles are built for extreme physical stress. Look at their cardiovascular system. They have backup blood vessels everywhere. If one gets damaged, another one takes over." Dr. Yathara studied the data carefully. "This is impossible. No intelligent species could evolve with such extreme physical adaptations. The energy cost alone would prevent brain development." "It gets worse," Kethmore said. He brought up another screen. "Look at their blood chemistry. They have natural toxins in their system, chemicals that would put us in a coma. But for them, these toxins seem to be normal." The alien officers looked at each other with growing concern. They had met many species in their travels. Some were stronger than others. Some were smarter. But none had ever shown such extreme adaptations for survival. "What about their homeworld?" asked Navigation Officer Zeftol. "What kind of planet could create beings like this?" Kethmore pulled up the planetary data that the humans had shared in their first message. The numbers made everyone in the room step back. "Their homeworld has gravity that is 20% higher than standard," he said. "The atmosphere contains oxygen levels that would be toxic to most species. They have extreme weather patterns, storms that can level entire cities, temperature ranges that go from deadly cold to deadly hot. Dr. Yathara was reading the data with horror. Look at this. Their planet has violent geological activity, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, massive ocean storms. How could any life survive there, let alone evolve intelligence? Maybe the data is wrong, suggested Security Chief Nexwan. Maybe they are lying about their homeworld to make themselves seem more dangerous. Kethmore shook his head. The biological scans do not lie. Every adaptation in their bodies matches a world like this. High gravity explains the bone density. Toxic environment explains their immune system. Extreme weather explains their cardiovascular redundancy. Commander Vex High walked to the window and looked out at the human ship. It floated peacefully in space, its running lights blinking in a friendly pattern. But now he saw it differently. This was not just a ship. It was a fortress built by warriors who expected everything to try to kill them. What about their psychology? He asked. Did the scans pick up anything about how they think? Dr. Yathara consulted her notes. The brain scans show high activity in areas associated with problem-solving and pattern recognition. But there is something else. They have enlarged sections that deal with stress response and threat assessment. Their minds are constantly ready for danger. So they are a warrior race, Nexwan said. We should leave before they decide to attack us. No, Vex High said slowly. Look at their behavior. They could have fired on us the moment we appeared. Instead, they raised shields and tried to communicate. They agreed to our scan request. If they were simple warriors, they would have attacked. First, Kethmore brought up a new display. There is something else strange. Look at their technology. Everything has massive safety margins. Their reactor can produce twice the power they normally use. Their life support can keep them alive for weeks even if most of the ship is destroyed. This is how you build things when you expect them to break, Dr. Yathara said quietly. When you expect everything to go wrong at the worst possible moment. The room fell silent again. The implications were starting to sink in. Humans were not just tough because they wanted to be. They were tough because their world had tried to kill them every day for millions of years. Only the strongest, smartest, and most adaptable had survived. Commander, Kethmore said, there is one more thing. The scans show that humans have very short lifespans compared to us. Maybe 70 to 80 of their years. But look at how much they accomplish in that time. They have built a space-traveling civilization in just a few thousand years. Vex High turned back to face his officers. So they live fast and accomplish much because they know death is always close. Another adaptation to their harsh world. Navigation Officer Zeftol was studying the star charts. Sir, I have been looking at the human territory. They control dozens of systems already. All of them are marginal worlds that other species would consider too dangerous to colonize. What do you mean? Vex High asked. High radiation, extreme temperatures, unstable orbits around their stars, the kind of worlds we would mark as uninhabitable. But humans seem to thrive there. Dr. Yathara was looking through more of the biological data. Commander, I think I understand now. Humans do not just survive in harsh conditions. They prefer them. Their bodies and minds work best when they are under stress. The weight of this realization settled over the room like a heavy blanket. They were not dealing with a normal species. Humans were apex survivors from a world that would kill most galactic races in hours, and they had spread that survival instinct across the stars. What do we do now? Asked Security Chief Nexwan. Commander Vex High looked at the peaceful human ship one more time. We proceed with first contact, but carefully, very carefully. We are not dealing with another civilized race. We are dealing with the galaxy's most successful predators who have learned to be polite. He paused and added, quietly, and they do not even realize how terrifying they are. Captain Jake Morrison straightened his uniform and checked his watch. The alien delegation would be arriving in 10 minutes. He had picked his best people to meet them. Dr. Lisa Carter would handle any medical questions. Steve Collins would show them the engineering sections if they were interested. Lieutenant Ben Hayes would stay on the bridge to keep an eye on things. Are you nervous, Captain? Dr. Carter asked as they walked toward the shuttle bay. A little, Jake admitted. First contact is always tricky, but they seem friendly enough. Their scans were polite, not aggressive. Steve Collins joined them in the corridor. He was wiping his hands on a clean rag, having just finished checking the shuttle bay systems. "Everything is ready, sir. I made sure the gravity and atmosphere controls are working perfectly. We do not want our guests to be uncomfortable." The shuttle bay doors opened with a soft hiss. Jake watched through the force field as a small alien craft approached. It was beautiful in its own way. Smooth curves and flowing lines, like someone had carved it from a single piece of silver metal. The alien shuttle landed gently on the deck. Jake activated the force field to let air into the bay. A door opened on the side of the shuttle, and 3 figures in environment suits stepped out. The aliens were tall and thin, moving with careful grace. Their suits were clear enough to show their faces, large black eyes, gray skin, and no visible hair. They looked fragile compared to humans, but Jake knew that appearances could be deceiving. "Welcome aboard the UHS Liberty," Jake said, stepping forward with a smile. "I am Captain Jake Morrison." The lead alien removed his helmet, revealing a face that looked both wise and worried. "Thank you, Captain Morrison. I am Commander Vexihai. These are my officers, Dr. Yathara and Science Officer Kethmore." Jake noticed that they all kept their environment suits on even after removing their helmets. Probably a safety precaution. "Would you like a tour of our ship? We are proud of the Liberty." "That would be most educational," Commander Vexihai said. But Jake caught something strange in his voice. The alien sounded nervous. They started with the medical bay. Dr. Carter showed them the equipment with obvious pride. "We can handle almost anything here," she said. "Broken bones, internal injuries, radiation sickness, chemical poisoning. Last month we dealt with a flu outbreak that hit half the crew." Dr. Yathara looked interested but concerned. "A flu outbreak? Was this a biological weapon attack?" Dr. Carter laughed. "Oh no, nothing like that. Just a normal flu bug. Happens every winter back on Earth. The crew brought it with them from shore leave. We had it contained in a few days." The alien doctor looked confused. "Your people regularly suffer from diseases that spread through your entire population." "Sure, Doctor," Carter said casually. "Flu, cold, stomach bugs, nothing serious. Our immune systems handle most of it without problems. We just take some medicine and rest for a few days." Jake saw the aliens exchange worried glances. He wondered what they were thinking. Next, they visited the engineering section. Steve Collins was in his element, showing off the reactor and propulsion systems. "She is not the newest ship in the fleet," he said, "but the Liberty is tough. We have triple redundancy on all critical systems." "Triple redundancy?" Kethmore asked. "Sure. If one system fails, we have 2 backups. If those fail, we have emergency systems. And if those fail, we have manual backups that can run on stored power." Steve patted a control panel affectionately. "This old girl can keep us alive, even if 90% of her systems are dead." Commander Vexihai looked around the engine room with growing alarm. Every surface was covered with emergency controls, backup systems, and manual overrides. "Do your systems fail often enough to require so many backups?" Steve shrugged. "Things break, especially out here in deep space. You have to be ready for anything. Last year, we lost main power during a solar storm. Backup power kept us going for 6 days until we could fix the main reactor." "6 days without main power?" Dr. Yathara whispered. "How did you survive?" "Emergency rations, manual life support, and a lot of coffee," Steve said with a grin. "It was not comfortable, but we managed. That is what the backup systems are for." They moved on to the crew quarters. Jake showed them a typical room where off-duty crew members were relaxing. 2 sailors were playing a game that involved throwing small knives at a target board. Another was reading a book about survival techniques. A 4th was doing push-ups. "What is that game?" Kethmore asked, pointing at the knife throwers. "Darts," Jake said. "An old Earth game. Good for hand-eye coordination and stress relief." "They are throwing weapons for recreation?" "Well, they are not really weapons," Jake explained. "Just small, knives designed for the game. Although I guess you could hurt someone with them if you tried." The aliens watched in fascination and horror as one of the sailors threw 3 darts in quick succession, hitting the center of the target each time. "And this?" Dr. Yathara asked, pointing at the sailor doing push-ups. "Exercise," Dr. Carter said. "We have to stay in shape during long space voyages. Everyone does at least an hour of physical training every day." "Physical training? Running? Lifting weights?" combat practice, endurance exercises. We have a full gym on Deck 7. Commander Vex-High looked like he was getting a headache. Combat practice? Sure, Jake said. Hand-to-hand fighting, weapons training, tactical exercises. We hope we never need it, but you have to be prepared. Would you like to see the gym? The aliens followed them to Deck 7, where they found 20 crew members engaged in various forms of exercise. Some were lifting weights that looked impossibly heavy. Others were running on treadmills at speeds that would be dangerous for most species. In one corner, 2 Marines were practicing unarmed combat, throwing each other around with casual efficiency. Dr. Yithara stared at a woman who was lifting weights equal to twice her body weight. Does this not cause injury? Sometimes, the woman said cheerfully. I pulled a muscle last week, but it healed up fine. Pain is just weakness leaving the body, my instructor used to say. Kethmore was watching the combat practice with wide eyes. Are they trying to hurt each other? Nah, one of the Marines said, pausing between throws. This is just practice. We wear padding and follow safety rules. Real combat training is much more intense. Real combat training? Commander Vex-High asked weakly. War games, survival exercises, weapons practice with live ammunition. We do that planet-side when we get the chance. Nothing like the real thing to keep your skills sharp. Jake was starting to notice that his guests looked uncomfortable. Their faces had gone even paler than before, and they were staying close together. Is everything all right? He asked. Fine, fine, Commander Vex-High said quickly. Your crew is very dedicated to physical fitness. They finished the tour in the ship's library and recreation area. Jake thought this would be more relaxing for the aliens. But even here, they found things that disturbed them. The entertainment selection included movies about war, survival stories, and disaster films. The books ranged from military history to extreme adventure stories. One crew member was reading a novel about humans fighting alien invaders. This is your entertainment? Dr. Yithara asked, looking at a movie poster showing humans fighting giant monsters. People like excitement, Dr. Carter explained. Stories about overcoming impossible odds, surviving disasters, defeating enemies against all hope. It helps us relax. Commander Vex-High stared at the movie poster. In his culture, entertainment was about peace, harmony, and beautiful art. These humans seemed to enjoy watching their own species suffer and struggle. Captain Morrison, he said quietly, may I ask about your homeworld? What is Earth like? Jake smiled, thinking of home. Oh, Earth is beautiful. Blue skies, green forests, deep oceans. Of course, you have to watch out for the weather. We were lucky growing up in Kansas. Just tornadoes in the spring and summer. Nothing too serious. The alien delegation looked at each other with pure terror in their eyes. Jake noticed their reaction, but did not understand it. Just tornadoes? Commander Vex-High asked. Sure. Big spinning storms that can level a town if you are not careful, but most people have storm shelters. We learn to live with them. Actually, some folks enjoy watching them from a safe distance. By now, the aliens were backing toward the exit. Commander Vex-High managed a weak smile. Thank you for the tour, Captain Morrison. We have learned much about your people. As the alien delegation returned to their shuttle, Jake turned to his officers. I think that went well. They seemed very interested in everything. Dr. Carter nodded. Though they did look a bit pale by the end. Maybe our artificial gravity is different from what they are used to. None of the humans realized that they had just given 3 peaceful aliens the worst scare of their lives. Commander Vex-High collapsed into his chair the moment they returned to the Zeltarian ship. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely remove his environment suit. Dr. Yithara and Science Officer Kethmore looked just as shaken. Emergency. Council meeting, Vex-High said into his communicator. All senior staff to the main conference room immediately. Within minutes, the conference room was full of Zeltarian officers. They had never seen their commander look so disturbed. His usually calm demeanor was completely gone. What happened over there? Asked Security Chief Nexwan. You look like you have seen death itself. Worse, Vex-High said quietly. We have seen a species that lives with death every day and calls it normal. Dr. Yithara activated the room's display screen and began sharing recordings from their visit. We need to revise everything we thought we knew about humans. They are not just tough. They are adaptive survivors on a level we never imagined possible. The first recording showed Dr. Carter casually discussing disease outbreaks. The Zeltharian officers gasped when they heard her describe flu as normal. They deliberately exposed themselves to biological agents, Dr. Yithara explained. Their medical officer spoke of diseases that spread through their entire population as if it was no more serious than rain. Kethmore brought up the engineering data. Look at their backup systems. They build everything expecting total failure. Their engineer mentioned losing main power for 6 days and surviving on emergency systems alone. He spoke of it like it was a minor inconvenience. Navigation Officer Zeftol leaned forward. 6 days without main power? That would kill everyone on our ship. That is exactly my point, Kethmore said. What would be a deadly disaster for us is just an annoying problem for them. Their bodies and technology are built to survive what should be extinction-level events. The recording continued, showing the crew quarters where humans threw knives for fun and exercised to the point of physical damage. The Zeltharian officers watched in horror as a human woman lifted weights that would crush their bones. They voluntarily subject themselves to pain, Dr. Yithara said. One of them said that pain was weakness leaving the body. They believe suffering makes them stronger. And the combat training, Vex High added grimly. They practice fighting each other with their bare hands, for fun. They spoke of weapons training and war games like they were normal recreational activities. Security Chief Nexwan was studying the recordings carefully. Commander, these are not the actions of a peaceful species. This looks like a military culture that has spread to their entire civilization. No, Vex High said. That is what makes them so terrifying. They are not a military culture. This is just how they live. Every single human is trained from birth to survive in conditions that would kill us in minutes. Dr. Yithara brought up the final recordings from the library. Look at their entertainment. Stories about war, disaster, survival against impossible odds. They watch their own species suffer and struggle for pleasure. Because struggle is normal for them, Kethmore realized. They find these stories relaxing because overcoming deadly challenges is their everyday experience. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Commander Vexahai stood up and walked to the window overlooking the human ship. The worst part, he said, was when Captain Morrison described their homeworld. He mentioned tornadoes like we might mention a gentle breeze, massive storms that can destroy cities, and humans just build shelters and wait them out. Dr. Yithara was reviewing her notes from the conversation. He said some humans enjoy watching these storms from a safe distance. They find destructive, natural disasters entertaining. What kind of evolutionary pressure creates beings like this? Asked Science Officer Kethmore. The worst kind, Dr. Yithara replied. Constant, unrelenting pressure from every direction, weather that tries to kill them, diseases that spread through their population, geological instability, predators, competition for resources. Everything on their world is designed to eliminate life. Vexhai turned back to face his officers. I have been thinking about their space expansion. Look at the worlds they have colonized. High radiation zones, extreme temperature planets, worlds with toxic atmospheres. Places we would never even consider visiting. They are not just surviving. On these worlds, Zeftol added. According to their charts, they are thriving, building cities, raising families, creating art and culture. Because hard places are easy for them, Kethmore said in wonder. What we call uninhabitable death worlds, they call home. Dr. Yithara was looking through the biological data again. I keep coming back to their lifespans. 70 to 80 years is incredibly short by galactic standards, but look what they accomplish in that time. They build civilizations, explore space, create technology, raise families, and do it all while fighting for survival every day. They live fast because they expect to die young, Vexhai said. Another adaptation to a world that kills most life before it can reproduce. Security Chief Nexwan was studying the tactical implications. Commander, what does this mean for our safety? Are they a threat to us? Vexhai considered the question carefully. They could destroy us without breaking a sweat. Their ship alone carries enough firepower to level a continent. But I do not think they will attack us. Why not? Because they are not simple predators. They have learned to cooperate with their own species despite their competitive nature. They build alliances, share resources, work together for common goals. This suggests they can be reasoned with. But, he added grimly, they are still the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They just do not realize it themselves. Dr. Yathara was running calculations on her screen. I have been thinking about their expansion rate. If they continue colonizing at their current pace, they will control a significant portion of the galaxy within a few hundred years. And they will be colonizing all the worlds that no one else wants, Kethmore added. The dangerous places, the marginal systems, the death worlds, places that could become strategic resources if someone learns how to exploit them. You mean humans are not just expanding into empty space, Zeftol said slowly. They are expanding into space that everyone else considers worthless and making it valuable. The room went quiet again as they realized the long-term implications. Humans were not just another space-faring race. They were a species that could thrive anywhere, survive anything, and turn the galaxy's most hostile regions into thriving colonies. What do we tell the Galactic Council? Asked Nexwan. Commander Vexhai thought for a long moment. We tell them the truth. We have encountered a species that evolved in hell and learned to call it home. They are peaceful now, but they are also the most capable survivors we have ever met. Will the Council believe us? They will when they see the scan data, and they will understand why we need to be very, very careful about how we interact with humanity. Dr. Yathara looked at the peaceful human ship on the display screen. They invited us aboard their ship without fear. They showed us their technology, their people, their weaknesses. They trusted us completely. Because they are confident, Vexhai said. They do not fear us, because they have survived things far worse than anything we could do to them. And that confidence is perhaps the most terrifying thing of all. 3 hours later, Commander Vexhai found himself back aboard the human ship. Captain Morrison had invited the aliens to join them for dinner, calling it a cultural exchange. Vexhai had accepted, hoping to learn more about these strange beings. While his science team analyzed the data they had collected, the dining hall was warm and welcoming. Human crew members sat at long tables, eating and talking in small groups. The sound of laughter filled the room. To any normal observer, it looked like a peaceful, civilized gathering. But Vexhai now saw it differently. These were apex predators from a death world, gathering to share food and stories. Every casual gesture revealed their terrifying capabilities. Captain Morrison led the alien delegation to a special table set up for the meeting. Dr. Carter and Engineer Collins joined them, along with several other senior officers. The conversation started pleasantly enough. This is delicious, Dr. Yathara said, tasting the human food carefully. What is it? Beef stew, Dr. Carter replied. Made from cattle we raise on Earth. The meat is cooked with vegetables and spices. You consume other animals? Kethmore asked, trying to hide his shock. Of course, Steve Collins said, looking confused by the question. Beef, pork, chicken, fish. Humans are omnivores. We eat both plants and animals. Do your people not eat meat? We consume only plant-based nutrients, Dr. Yathara managed to say. The thought of eating other living creatures made her feel sick. Huh, Dr. Carter said thoughtfully. That must make space travel difficult. Fresh vegetables do not keep well on long voyages. We have to use a lot of preserved and synthetic foods. What did you eat during your 6-month patrol? Commander Vexhai asked, dreading the answer. Oh, the usual, Captain Morrison said. Canned foods, dried rations, recycled protein. Not the best tasting, but it keeps you alive. We learned to eat whatever was available during the colonial wars. Colonial wars? Kethmore asked. Ancient history now, Morrison replied. Conflicts over territory and resources when we were first expanding beyond Earth. Lasted about 30 years. Taught us a lot about survival and cooperation. The aliens exchanged worried glances. Humans had fought wars lasting decades and considered it ancient history. For the peaceful Zeltharians, even small conflicts were traumatic events that lasted months at most. Tell us about your childhood, Dr. Yathara said, hoping for safer topics. What was it like growing up on Earth? Captain Morrison smiled warmly. I grew up on a farm in Kansas, Wide open spaces, big skies. My dad taught me to drive when I was 12, started working the fields when I was 14. We had to be ready for tornado season every spring. You worked as a child? Commander Vex High asked. Sure. Everyone did chores. Fed the animals, fixed equipment, helped with the harvest, built character, and taught responsibility. Plus, you never knew when you might need those skills. Dr. Carter nodded. I grew up in Michigan, near the Great Lakes. Winters were pretty harsh. I remember one year we lost power for 2 weeks during an ice storm. We heated the house with a wood stove and melted snow for water. You survived 2 weeks without modern technology? Doctor Yithara asked in amazement. It was not too bad, Dr. Carter said. My parents had prepared for emergencies. We had stored food, extra blankets, backup heating. People in cold climates learn to be ready for anything. Engineer Collins laughed. You think that is tough? I grew up in Alaska. We regularly had temperatures 40 degrees below freezing. School was only canceled if it got below 60 below. The aliens stared at him in horror. 60 degrees below freezing? Kethmore whispered. Yeah, that was considered dangerous even for us, Collins admitted. But most of the time, you just dressed warmly and went about your business. The human body adapts pretty well to cold if you give it time. Commander Vex High was beginning to understand something terrible. These harsh conditions you describe. Do all humans face such challenges growing up? Different places have different problems, Morrison said. Desert regions deal with extreme heat and drought. Coastal areas face hurricanes and flooding. Mountain communities handle avalanches and thin air. Tropical zones have dangerous wildlife and diseases. But Earth has safe places too, right? Dr. Yithara asked desperately. The humans looked at each other and shrugged. Depends on what you call safe, Dr. Carter said. I mean, there are places with fewer natural disasters, but you still have to worry about disease, accidents, crime, economic problems. Life is risky no matter where you live. Crime? Commander Vex High asked. Some humans hurt other humans for money or power, Morrison explained sadly. It is not common, but it happens. We have police and laws to deal with it. Most people are good, but you have to be careful. The conversation turned to human history, and the aliens learned about wars, plagues, natural disasters, and technological accidents that had killed millions of humans over the centuries. But what shocked them most was how casually the humans discussed these tragedies. The Great Earthquake of 2157 killed 50,000 people, Dr. Carter mentioned while talking about medical advances. But it led to better building codes and emergency response systems. We learned from it. You lost 50,000 people and considered it a learning experience? Kethmore asked. Well, yeah, Collins said. Tragic, but you have to move forward. Build back better, prepare for next time. Sitting around feeling sorry for yourself does not help anyone. As the evening continued, the aliens heard story after story of human resilience. Tales of people surviving plane crashes, shipwrecks, natural disasters, wars, and diseases. Each story was told as if it was perfectly normal for humans to face death and keep going. I was in a car accident when I was 20, one officer mentioned. Broke 3 ribs in my left arm. Was back to work in 6 weeks. My sister survived cancer twice, another added. Tough year, but she beat it both times. Stronger than ever now. My hometown was hit by a tornado when I was a kid, said a third. Destroyed half the buildings. We rebuilt it in 2 years, better than before. Commander Vex High listened to these stories with growing amazement. Any one of these events would be a civilization-ending disaster for his people. For humans, they were just part of life. As the dinner ended, Captain Morrison walked the aliens back to their shuttle. I hope this helped you understand us better, he said sincerely. We look forward to a long friendship between our peoples. Yes, Commander Vex High managed to say. Most educational. Back on the Zeltharian ship, the alien crew worked frantically to update their databases. They created a new classification for humanity. Species Class Twuth, Apex Survivors. The file included detailed warnings about human capabilities and recommendations for peaceful interaction. The final entry read, Humans evolved on a death world and spread that survival instinct across the stars. They are peaceful and cooperative, but possess physical and mental capabilities far beyond galactic norms. Approach with respect and caution. These beings have survived everything their hostile universe could throw at them and emerged stronger. Do not mistake their friendliness for weakness. They invite strangers aboard their ships not from naivety, but from confidence. They have faced worse than anything we could represent. Recommendation: maintain peaceful relations at all costs. Humans make excellent allies and terrifying enemies. They have turned the galaxy's most dangerous regions into thriving colonies. They view catastrophic disasters as learning opportunities. Final note: humans do not realize how extraordinary they are. To them, surviving impossible odds and thriving in deadly conditions is simply normal life. This may be the most remarkable thing about them. As the Zeltharian fleet prepared to depart, Commander Vexhai took one last look at the human ship. The UHS Liberty floated peacefully in space, its crew completely unaware that they had just redefined what it meant to be dangerous in the galaxy. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the alien ships jump to faster-than-light travel. "Nice people," he told Dr. Carter. "Very interested in our way of life." "They seemed a bit overwhelmed," Dr. Carter observed. "I guess our lifestyle is pretty different from theirs." "Different can be good," Morrison said. "Makes the universe more interesting." As the Liberty resumed its patrol, the human crew had no idea that their casual conversation about everyday life had left 3 alien civilizations reconsidering humanity's place in the galactic community. Word would spread quickly through alien space. There was a new species among the stars. They came from hell itself, but they brought friendship instead of conquest. They were the most dangerous beings in the galaxy, and they did not even know it. And perhaps that was the most terrifying thing of all.